UFC 317, guys, I'm conflicted. I am conflicted. Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the lightweight championship. Two of my absolute favorites, guys. We're gonna do what we normally do, and that's cover the fights. Again, as mentioned, Ilia stepping up from the featherweight division, the champion relinquishing his belt for a new challenge, moving up to fight for the vacant championship after Islam also moved up, and he will be facing Charles Oliveira, the lightweight legend, the bonus king. What can you say about Charles Oliveira which hasn't been said already? The man is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. I enjoy his game so much, and listen, this is going to be one of the best fights I believe that the UFC has seen in a long time. I may be wrong. I don't think I am. The caliber of these two fighters, I think we are going to be in for a treat, and the build up has been good. I would have liked a bit more exposure on the fighters, and maybe trying to get a little bit more in terms of building up the fight, but in terms of their stature in the game and who they are, yeah, they deserve all of their accolades. Ilia, again, from the moment I saw him in the UFC, I knew he was going to be a champion. The boy has it all. He has the background in terms of his wrestling and his grappling, but he's developed that with his boxing. You can see the way he strikes, the way he puts his whole body into his strikes. He's got a very well-rounded boxing style, one of the best in the UFC. He is relentless. He has a will about him that is hard to stop, because he will relentlessly chase down any of his opponents that seem to want to avoid confronting him. Again, as mentioned, that well-rounded nature gives him the ability to come into the fights with such confidence, and he has shown it time and time again. We can talk about his victories against Alex that you'll see here, Alex Volkanovski. You can talk about his win against Max Holloway, two of the most brilliant wins that you can imagine for someone in the featherweight division. Two legends, two of the greatest champions that the featherweight division has ever seen, and he beat them. Not only did he beat them, he knocked them both out, and it wasn't even close. So we're talking about someone who has built themselves up. Would a move from featherweight to lightweight be a problem for him? We don't know. He's claimed it's just 10 pounds and he will bring the same power. Of course he will think that, and he probably wouldn't have relinquished his featherweight belt if he thought he couldn't make the jump up. He has had that one fight in the lightweight division against Jai Herbert. He did win, and what a knockout it was, so the power was there, but he was also on the receiving end of a powerful punch. So it's not only how you give them, it's also how you take them. And so Topuria has been on the ends of, 145 of punches, and that will be different against a 155, and 155ers who grow to 170 plus. It's going to be very interesting. But we talk about the rest of what he's done in the UFC and in the featherweight division, the win against Josh Emmett, the win against Bryce Mitchell. We spoke about the Jai Herbert victory already as well. It's crazy to think that was only 4 fights ago for him. Absolutely crazy. But Ilia Topuria has risen up, and he deserves to be where he is. Charles Oliveira, as you can see, very active. They both are active on the feet. Charles is an absolute beast on the ground, submission wise, such a joy to watch. Those rear naked chokes are masterful, the way he will apply them, the way he will get his opponents in position. One thing about Charles, he is comfortable everywhere. Even when he looks uncomfortable, he's comfortable. I've seen him punched, I've seen him doing the punching, I've seen him get taken down, I see him, doing the taking down, I've seen him in submissions, I see him giving the submissions. Charles is somebody who embodies what a fighter is. His ability to consistently come forward and initiate the attacks is a beautiful thing. Against Ilia, I am worried that he may get caught, and if he does get caught, and if Ilia can bring that power, then I love Charles, but you're asking for trouble. I think his height advantage and reach advantage he will need to use. He will need to make sure he avoids being in that boxing range, that mid-boxing range where he can get caught and Ilia can do his best work. He needs to be up close or at a distance. Up close or at a distance. And when he's up close, he needs to be clinching. He needs to get into his tie clinch. He needs to be delivering knees. He needs to be delivering elbows. He needs to be getting really nasty. On the outside, he needs to get Ilia to chase him. He needs to find ways of bringing in some level changes and getting Ilia down and testing that wrestling that is spoken about so well, but we see less and less as Ilia starts to fall in love with his hands more and more. If we look at Charles and his last couple of fights and how he's performing. Against the win against Chandler, pretty much dominated the fight. He was a little bit sloppy at the end, and that's something we have to look at. And again, with how bad Chandler is, how much stock do you put into a decision victory against Chandler? I'm not sure how much. The loss against Sarukian again was less than ideal. It was a split decision, and I did think the fight was close, but I think the right man did get the victory on the night. Dariush, the win. So for Charles, it's been a bit up and down, win, loss, hard to build some momentum. And so a win against Topuria would be absolutely amazing. Again, my biggest issue for him is, yes, he can deliver a bunch of damage, but he also takes a lot of damage. And I have a massive worry about that for him, especially if he says he's going to be on the front foot, he's going to be pushing the pace. If you can't take Topuria out with your power in those situations, then he will sit there and find the angle to knock you out. And so this is a very, very difficult fight to call. Two of my favorites, as mentioned. I'm going to go with Ilia. I think he comes with a wealth of confidence. I think he's the younger man. I think he will bring the power up the division. And I think he will be able to withstand a lot of the power from Charles. I do think Charles comes with a lot of things that Ilia has not seen before. The wild nature, the ability to take the fight anywhere. I just truly think he presents a big, big problem if Ilia cannot get his way in it, and especially if the fight isn't standing. I really want to see these two on the ground and see who has the advantage and who's able to initiate their game plan, because if it's purely striking, I think Charles can definitely hold his own, but Ilia will surely find a way to deliver that punch that he has caught so many with, and potentially win this match and also make himself a two-time UFC champion in two separate divisions. That is what awaits him, and I'm going for Ilia Topuria. Next up, we have the flyweight title fight, Kai Kara-France versus Alexandre Pantoja. And where do I start here, man? Two absolute warriors. Pantoja is, if you were to build the perfect flyweight in a lab, it would be Pantoja. Can he strike? Yes. Can he strike at volume? Yes. Can he hit with a bit of power? Yes. Can he submit, and does he have a good ground game? Yes. He has it all. Obviously, you would probably love a little bit more power, but how many times do we see flyweights with immense power? Those who have the immense power is probably, you're looking at his opponent, and that would be Kai Kara-France, someone who comes with a little bit more power than the average flyweight and who can deliver a punch that can knock you out. Pantoja, again, so well-rounded, so enjoyable to watch from my standpoint. I know a lot of people have complained about he's boring, this and that. You might not love MMA. That might just be it, because he is not boring. He has to fights in a smart way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Why would you put yourself in a difficult position? But yeah, Pantoja is someone who's so well-rounded, on the feet, on the ground. He can do it all. And I'm backing him to win this fight. I am backing Pantoja to win this fight, even though I do like Kai Kara-France. And again, I've got a lot of favourites on this card. It is a stacked card. We did see him against Kai Askara in the last fight. He did beat him by submission. It was a beautiful, beautiful victory. He has beaten Herzog, Brandon Royval, and Brandon Moreno as well. So he has beat the top echelon of the division. They've even brought in a newcomer. He beat them. They brought in a young challenger. He beat them. Kai Kara-France is, outside of maybe Manel Camp, is probably the last established flyweight that you would say, you know what, you haven't beat him. Pantoja is entering into elite territory, and I'm not just talking about currently today, I'm talking about all time. He is stacking up those defenses and moving forward with his title push, but he is coming up against a man who loves to fight. Kai Kara-France brings an energy, he brings a volatility to the fight game. Obviously, predominantly a striker, someone who's going to try and find those big, powerful shots. We've seen him at his best. Kai Kara-France, I believe the fight relatively recently against Askarov was one that I really, really enjoyed. He was very good. Obviously, Kai did suffer back-to-back losses against Albazi, which was one that was a little bit difficult for me to stomach, if I'm being honest with you. And then the Brandon Moreno, a knockout for the championship. Again, it was one that was probably a bitter swill for Kai to swallow, but one that was needed. He did come back with that beautiful knockout against Steve Erceg, and again, that sets him up beautifully to come into this championship fight. Again, for flyweight, there aren't many challengers that Pantoja hasn't beaten, and there aren't many established challengers in general. For Kai, honestly, the way I see him winning this fight would be him knocking out Pantoja. I think if this was to go the full 5 rounds, then Pantoja wins. I think if this goes to the ground, Pantoja wins. I think his best chance is to honestly catch him, make him strike, make him fight at your range and at your distance. Don't let him control the fight with his footwork and moving away and making you chase him. That's what Kai is going to have to do, and he's going to have to do it early, catch Pantoja early. And as we've seen with Pantoja, sometimes it looks like his stamina goes down at fights. Sometimes he tries to manage his stamina. If you can get him early, if you can get his gas tank going, it gives you a really, really good opportunity. Moving on to our next fight, Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. And listen, Joshua Van, we spoke about last time, was someone we really enjoyed watching. He was someone I said, I'm looking at him and I'm getting future champion vibes. And he will be fighting Brandon Royval, who was meant to be fighting Manil Camp. I will be honest here, I am fully in the camp of Josh Van. No offense to Brandon Royval, he's had a multitude of opportunities. He is an exciting fighter at times, don't get me wrong. He has fought against the best in the division and has held his own on a number of occasions, but he has been beaten on a number of occasions as well. Joshua Van is fresh blood. He is someone who's going to be really exciting to watch, and he is going to come up against a really big challenge, because if he's able to beat Royval, he almost puts himself one fight away from the championship, if not fighting next for the championship. I truly do believe that with the depth in the flyweight division, it gives him an absolutely immense opportunity. Yes, it is short notice, but I really want him to win this fight, if I'm being honest with you. No offense, Brandon Royval. He's coming off a bunch of split decision victories. He did lose to Pantoja when he did fight for the title in a unanimous decision. And again, he will be thinking to himself that I've earned the opportunity to fight for a title next after this fight if he wins it, and he wouldn't be wrong. I really just want to see some fresh blood fight for the title, and Joshua Van to me represents, again, as I said about Ilia, the next kind of generation of MMA. His striking is crisp. He's a really fast striker, has power behind his strikes, a really intelligent fighter as well, and he's been on a little bit of a streak, him establishing himself with 3 decision victories and 1 knockout in his most recent fight, and that is what has earned him the position that he sees himself in. Again, from a technical standpoint and an experience standpoint, Brandon Royval obviously has a number of tools within his arsenal. Joshua Van is less experienced to a degree and hasn't fought the caliber that Brandon Royval has fought. However, I'm going with Joshua Van. I really want to see him win. Young star who could really cause a lot of damage in the flyweight division. So let's see what the outcome will be. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. This is a fight that each man needs to win. They are probably at a little bit of a crossroads in terms of where they are in the lightweight rankings versus some of their most recent fights. And even though I think both men are probably best on the ground, I think Renato's got a number of submissions that he can utilize. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, and this is a fight for both men, which means a hell of a lot. They are in a very precarious position in the lightweight division. Whoever wins this can be moving on to fight more established lightweight fighters. The one who doesn't will potentially be looked at as probably a gatekeeper and someone who will probably be matched up against the new up-and-coming lightweight fighters who the UFC will probably try and bring in sooner rather than later. And so now winning this fight and laying your case to fight someone like a Gaethje or what's after this? Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, and this is a fight for both men in the lightweight division that is gonna be a test, because whoever wins this has hope. Whoever doesn't, you may be viewed as a gatekeeper for the new up-and-coming talent in the lightweight division. Again, these are both men who are proficient on the feet, don't get me wrong, but I think they're better on the ground. I think they're better grappling, and me saying that will probably lead to them having a 15-minute fight all standing. But again, 2 fighters who have had a difficult time as of recent. We'll catch up with Beneil Dariush, back-to-back losses in his last 2 fights, the knockout to Charles Oliveira and also the knockout to Arman Sarukian. Again, his last fights were in 2003, so it's been nearly 2 years since he's fought, and that is a problem. Beneil, again, before this, was on an absolute streak. Let me just show you exactly. He was on was it an 8 or 9 win streak? But these are not, scrubs by any means. Gamrot is not a scrub. You've also got Close in there. You've also got Dober in there. You've also got Ferguson in there. So again, he was looking as if he was accelerating, and it looked like Beneil was accelerating, and it was looking like he would have a chance to potentially fight for a title, maybe 1 or 2 fights away. That unfortunately wasn't the case, and 2 years later, after 2 defeats, it is now very, very precarious for him. He will be going up against Renato Moicano. We know Money Moicano. We know someone who can always make the pre-fight very, very exciting. He obviously was on a good streak before his loss to Islam, was building himself up. Obviously, when the UFC offer you that money and that short notice fight, you're not going to turn it down more often than not, but he needs to rebuild himself up. He cannot lose all of that momentum after fighting the champion. He needs to prove again that he is who he says he is, and then use that momentum to get a top fight. He needs that if he wants to push on. And when you look at some of the names he beat before his loss, I would say he should be looking at the top 5 fighters as someone who he should be matched up against, and that should be his focus going forward. Looking at the last fight on the main card, it will be Peyton Talbot, who actually experienced his first loss in his last fight, versus Felipe Lima. Again, this will be really, really interesting. I think Lima will be somebody who will test Peyton's complete MMA game. How much will he like being taken down? How good is his takedown defense? And how good is he actually on the feet? I think the last fight would have probably shook him to a degree. I know he probably would have recovered from it, but how much did that shake him? And is he ready to come back in his next fight? That is the question. I won't dive too much into this fight, but it's one to definitely watch out on. Again, let's look through the rest of the card. Jack Hermansson versus Rodriguez. Again, this should be really, really good. This is one I would definitely be watching. Tracy Cortez is back, and that again is something we should keep an eye out for. Terrence McKinney, again, fighting Nico Price. So a number of good fights all the way through the card. Guys, let me know what you think. What are the fights that you're looking out for? Definitely the main event is what I've got my eyes fixed on, but I want to hear your opinions. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.